You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
What up, homies? Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. Now let's talk about Pound Town. If you have followed me on social media, mostly I'm on Instagram at You Can Pound This. I'm also on TikTok at You Can Pound This, and I'm on Facebook at Amanda Valentine Bites. You've seen that I've been teasing Pound Town is coming, and if you listen to all of these episodes of this podcast, you may have heard me mention in some of my diary episodes that I've been working on another podcast, and that other podcast is Pound Town. So I want to talk to you about Pound Town, and I created that because it's going to be a Patreon paid podcast. So if you listen to other podcasts, you may have heard other podcasts talk about, subscribe to their Patreon, help support the podcast by, basically becoming a member, and you get extra perks. So to help the podcaster like me be able to keep creating this podcast and be able to do more and grow with it, because your girl is an entrepreneur and your girl needs some money to make ends meet and keep the lights on. So I know I'm doing things a little bit differently, which if you know me, then you're probably like, that sounds about right. I always got to make things a little bit more difficult for myself. But most podcasts, when they do a Patreon, take one of their episodes and put it behind the paywall behind a Patreon, and you have different membership levels. So you get access to those additional content podcasts or whatever they're offering when you become a Patreon member. So I was thinking about that because I currently do 3 episodes a week. I used to do 5, and we'll see where the future goes with this. But I felt like I didn't want to take away from Pound This. I didn't want to take away an episode and be like, okay, well, if you want to have access to the updates with Shay, or if you want to have access to these certain Pound This interviews, then you need to have a Patreon. I wanted to be like, well, I want to create something new, and that way you're getting additional things. I don't want to take away what I'm already doing and have you pay for that. I wanted to give more. And so I came up with the idea of Pound Town, which is still a work in progress. And I just want to say that by me doing Pound This, I've been doing almost 4 years now. And if any of those episodes or anything has ever given you any value or helped you, it would be incredibly helpful to me to become a Patreon member. You're basically supporting me, my business in this podcast, so I can keep Pound This going. And I also don't have to litter it with ads. You know what I mean? A huge shout out to the Christ Hospital. I would not be able to keep Pound This when I was transitioning out of the radio station if it weren't for Christ Hospital. So they're such an amazing sponsor, and they're incredible, and I love them so much. And, I've had other sponsorship opportunities, and so there's a balance between, littering you guys with ads, or if you can support me through Patreon and I'm giving you additional content and access to things. I mean, I would prefer to be listener supported than to have to, give you guys a million promo codes and everything like that. So Pound This, the idea, or not Pound This, Pound Town. The idea behind that is I want to have conversations with other people in my life. I've been in radio for over 20 years, and I have seen some wild ass things, and I have worked with some very interesting people, and just people in my life that I want to have awesome conversations with that isn't solely health and fitness focused, but obviously that's my life, and that's going to have that lean. So the very first episode of Pound Town is live right now, and you go to Patreon. You can download the app or go to patreon.com and look up Pound Town Podcast. I'll have that in the show links for this too. And it's your girl Shay and Josh Garrett, who have both been guests on this podcast a lot, but the three of us had never been together before. So it was a very fun threesome. And it was just really an incredible experience to kind of hear from our own perspectives of each other and working with each other and how we all came to know each other and, you know, some deep thought process things. So I'm playing some games with my deep questions and things like that over on Pound Town. And I don't want to put that episode on Pound This, because then, you know, that's special. If you're a Pound Town member, then you have special access to these episodes. So episode 1 is the three of us, me, Shay / Shannon, and Josh. And then episode 2 that's going to be coming out next week is me and my very best friend, Colleen, who I've been friends with for 17 years. And that was an incredible conversation because we ended up talking about how I have literally not seen her in person or a photo of her since she was in my wedding in 2009. We talk weekly. We talk almost every single weekend. And we know so much about each other, and I literally have not seen her. She's seen pictures of me. She's never listened to this podcast. She's not on social media. So to hear her extremely vulnerable answer of why haven't we seen each other was insane, and kind of go into a conversation about you know, our own health and fitness and how she's seen me change from, she met me before I even started, I think, my very first diet, like my hardcore diet where I lost 60 pounds and then gained it back. And her to watch me through this process, it's awesome. And those are available on Pound Town. Again, patreon.com or Patreon app. Look for Pound Town Podcast. You can listen right on Patreon, or you can get a special RSS feed and listen to it in your app of choice. And it's episodes like that. And then I'm also going to have some things that are uncensored, like Rochelle, who is amazing, who is a sex educator who's been on this podcast a lot. We're going to have some really fun uncensored episodes over there, and just former co-hosts of mine, kind of wild radio stories. I have an episode I've recorded with my husband and his best friend, and that's goes into some interesting places. So I just want to share more of me and just some of the crazy insights of me and some of the people I've run across, and some deeper conversations with people that have been on this podcast. And I wanted to give that value, and I'm going to just continue to create over there too on Pound Town. And plus the name Pound Town just cracks me up. You know, the sex puns, man, they crack me up. Sex jokes crack me up. Because I always joke that Pound This sounds like porn, but Pound Town really sounds like porn. And guess what? If you go to poundtown.com, you're going to get porn. I couldn't get that URL. So, you know, I know that this episode kind of sounds like it does a big ad for myself, but really, truly, if Pound This, or if I as a person have ever given you any value, whether it's on social media, in person conversations, I can't stress enough how incredibly important it is for, I hope that you can help support this podcast so I can do more things. I have so many awesome ideas of ways to help people and give people really amazing opportunities that I would like to pay for. And in order to have that happen, you know, I got to have a budget to do that. And so, I mean, if you could help me out, and I don't want to sound like a beggar here, but it would really, really help me out to just make the most out of this podcast and just maximize its potential. And, you know, that's all I want to do, is have conversations and have a ton of fun and have it be helpful and useful. So I have multiple membership tiers. I have 4 membership tiers right now, starting at $5 a month. So, I mean, the cost of one freaking Starbucks coffee will get you an access to a Pound Town episode every week. So one Pound Town episode a week. As the tiers go up, there's more options. I do have some live events that I'm going to be planning here soon, considering COVID is not going to destroy us. But even then, I can turn it into some really cool virtual events and some things that I really want to get accomplished, including, writing a book and new cookbooks and, guides to help with your journey, whether you're just wanting to lose weight or wanting to get healthier, you want to love yourself more. I'm definitely on a self-love journey, and there's just a wealth of information that I want to be able to give, but I got to have a budget for it, just to be completely, brutally honest, because being an entrepreneur is freaking hard, being your own business owner, especially being a podcaster and trying to make that work in ways that I don't want to ruin the listening experience again with a bunch of ads, because we don't need to turn into a radio station here where we're doing 10 minutes blocks of commercials. Not to throw radio under the bus, but come on. We all know that's how the radio is if you're still listening to the radio. And trust me, if you're curious about behind the scenes, what working in radio is really like, then Pound Town is definitely for you if you want the tea on that, because talking with all the people I know, especially the people that have gotten out of the business, are have some things to say. So, yeah, and again, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It really is. This is my baby. It is my passion. I love this podcast. I love, the community that's built, and I'm working on building a community. I did start a Facebook group that I'm hoping people can join in. I'm calling it the Pound Pack. So if you look up Pound Pack on Facebook, I want to start a community there because I kind of want to get people together and connect, and that's what I want to do all this for, is connection. And I'm just trying to do a better job at being able to facilitate all that just on my own as one person, doing this podcast, running a business, doing social media work, and learning to be and being a personal trainer. So there's a lot going on here. So to kind of keep this podcast alive, I would really, really, really appreciate your support. And even if you're like, hey, I don't even want to listen to this stupid Pound Town thing, which it's not stupid, it's amazing, and you just want to support me, then there's multiple tiers there on Patreon. And if you have any questions about working the Patreon or the Patreon app or how to listen to Pound Town, you can always shoot me an email, amanda@AmandaValentineBites.com. And I would just really, truly appreciate your support here, because I do just appreciate you so much for listening and sharing this podcast with people that you think that will help. And all I want to do is grow and expand and do more things. I mean, I am an idea person, and I have just notes upon notes upon notes of all of the things I would love to do, and just, have to sit on the back burner until I'm able to do them. So by supporting me and this podcast and through Pound Town, then I hope to bring some of these things into fruition, and just, I'm just trying to be the best version of me I can be and try to pay it back. So patreon.com/Pound Town Podcast. Look up Pound Town on Patreon, the Patreon app. Again, the link is in the show notes, and I'm just going to keep repeating myself over and over, so I should end this thing. But please, please, please support if you can. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm just asking, just this, put down the Sarah McLachlan music and just in the arms of the angel, just add puppy dog eyes for just $5 a month. You could get so much good podcast content and early access to live events and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you so much for your support. Love you guys. Oh, and I forgot, it's also my birthday this week. So happy birthday to me. I'm a Leo. Rawr. Give me a birthday present and subscribe to Patreon. With that note, I'll end the Begathon. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.